You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. So on the day that Walker Howard picks Ole Miss, this is also the day, the 18th, that this portal window closes. So players, this is their last opportunity to enter the portal. As a reminder, you don't have to pick your destination, but you have to be in the portal in the window. And then at any point, you can choose your destination after that. Kardell Thomas has entered the transfer portal. And it's not often that an offensive lineman that's a little buried down the depth chart is going to generate the type of reaction that Kardell Thomas has, but I think we all know the reason why. He was, when he was coming out of, first of all, he's a Baton Rouge guy, right? Not only a Louisiana guy, but a Baton Rouge guy. He prepped at Southern Lab and was at one point, one of the hot, not just, at any position, one of the highest rated prospects in the country back in the class of 2019. He went to some of those elite camps, struggled a little bit, and so he lost his fifth star, but you're still talking about a guy that was on the 247 composite, the number 97 player in the country. Now, this is where some of the scouting service saw it differently, right? So the composite, so that's the average rating of the recruiting services. 247, their specific rating, had him as the 22nd offensive guard in the country. The composite had him as the fourth best offensive guard in the country. So it really varied by scouting service as his recruitment went along. And like we said, by and large, what happened was Kardell was a very big, look, when he signed, he was 6'3", 356, coming out of high school. Playing 1A ball, and he was manhandling children, right? He went to some of the elite camps, struggled against some of the guys that were more comparable to his size and ability, and so his recruiting ranking dropped a little bit. Came to LSU in 2019, and you might remember had the really gruesome injury. He had the displaced fracture. He had the Nick Fitzgerald injury. Remember the quarterback from Mississippi State, the ankle injury, whereas the broken ankle with dislocation. That's what happened to Kardell in a practice. So he ended up redshirting in the 2019 season, the national championship season. Worked really hard to get back. Played in just one game in 2020 in the COVID year. And a lot of people thought 2021 might be his opportunity. And it started in just two of them. He started 2 games of the 6 that he played and played in only 3 games this year. So a guy that just as his time at LSU went along, just continued to get passed by younger, talented players. And I want to be very clear. There's a big part of me that sort of feels for Kardell Thomas because I've been asked. If you say what guy on this roster have you been asked the most about over the last 4 years, it's by a mile Kardell Thomas. And the reason is because of the recruiting ranking. And when he was coming out of Southern Lab, he was a highly ranked guy. And so there was a ton of expectation heaped upon him based on the recruiting service, where that's unfair to Kardell Thomas. He didn't ask for the recruiting ranking or anything like that. Now, he did a lot of media. He was a very public member of that 2019 class where he did a lot of interviews. He was very active on social media. So he recruited that class a lot, which is very beneficial, obviously. So, but it also elevated his public profile, so people got to know him and know of him more. So people asked more and more. But by the time you get to year 4, and we mention this all the time at a place like LSU, really it's when you get to year 3. If you haven't played by the time you got to year 3, it's probably not going to happen at LSU because now you've had 3 recruiting classes come behind you, and you're going to get passed. Very seldom do you see the Lloyd Cushenberry situation where you sit for 3 years, then in year 4, you finally wrestle a job away. And Lloyd did that for 2 years and became a starter and then a draft pick by the Denver Broncos and started as a rookie. So it happens, but it's also the exception, not the rule. And so Kardell Thomas, who has 2 years of eligibility remaining, he had his redshirt year, so he's got 1 year, and then the COVID year also, is going to go elsewhere to play. And I think when you look at the LSU offense, so there's two sides of this. One is Kardell, and you wish him the best, man. I mean, he's been a hardworking guy. He's super loyal to LSU, a kid from Baton Rouge, from Louisiana, repped LSU with pride, and gave it a hell of a run over 4 years to try to break through, and it just hasn't happened for him. And now when you're returning, your entire starting unit, I know Anthony Bradford's gone, but Frazier came in and took one of those spots. So Frazier, Dellinger, very likely are your guards. It's where's and then Lance Hurd comes in. Where's the spot? So I get it. Go somewhere where you're going to get a chance to play and put film out, maybe develop as a player and get ready for the next level. So I get why Kardell Thomas is leaving. If anything, maybe surprised it took him to this point, but tip your cap for a guy that stuck it out for as long as he did. Now, for LSU, this does compound the problem. And if you remember, going into the December signing date, and a lot of us were talking about, okay, what are the positions LSU is going to target? And what I had been told initially was they were looking for a deep threat receiver, right, a game breaker. Well, they got that in Aaron Anderson, who's also going to help them in the return game. They had to address defensive line. They did that overwhelmingly, both inside and edge players. They've addressed their defensive front. They felt like they were going to need tight end. That's, I would say, still a need out there, especially with Cole Taylor leaving. So, where might that help come from? But the other one, naturally in the secondary, but the other was veteran offensive linemen. And look at where LSU's numbers are now. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because you've got 5 starters coming back. You've got Will Campbell, Miles Frazier, Charles Turner, of course, Garrett Dellinger, and Emory Jones. So you've got 5 starters returning. And then I could point out Marlon Martinez, who's played both guard and center, and actually repped a good bit at center in the bowl game, kind of rotating with Charles Turner. It may push Charles Turner for that job next year. We'll see. So you feel good about those 6. After that, here's the rest of your offensive line. Kimo Makanaioli, Bo Bordelon, Fitzgerald West, who, by the way, played defensive line in the bowl game and may move back to D-line. Don't know if he's going to play D-line or O-line. And then your 4 freshmen, Lance Hurd, Tyree Adams, Paul Mubenga, DJ Chester. Y'all, you have no experience depth. 0. You've got your starters and Marlon Martinez, and then a whole bunch of dudes that haven't played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 dudes that haven't played. So I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're going to say, well, Matt, why would an offensive lineman come to LSU if they're not going to start? I would point out exactly what happened last year with a guy like Miles Frazier, who was a freshman All-America at FIU, came here, not guaranteed an opportunity to start, but an opportunity to compete, and ended up winning a job. That's a spot where you are absolutely going to have to go out and recruit veteran offensive linemen. Let me rephrase it. Young veteran offensive linemen. Maybe guys that have played football at a lower level or the G5 level here in the past year or 2 that are going to have some experience that can give you depth behind your starters. I should mention Tremont Shorts as well. But that's a spot where you're going to have to go into the portal and get more bodies. You have to at this point, because we know the most injury-prone position on the field is on the offensive line. Makes sense. Big bodies in a phone booth, guys get hurt. So you need depth. You need depth at those spots. And look, we saw Will Campbell miss the Tennessee game this year due to a medical emergency, but we saw Garrett Dellinger get hurt and miss time this year. I mean, you saw the need for a rotation, and they're going to have to go address that in the offseason because here in the transfer portal, because you have seen now Anthony Bradford leave for the draft and 4 players leave in the portal. Doomerville, Xavier Hill, Cam Wire, now Kardell Thomas. So you've lost 5 of your veteran backups this offseason. You've got to go replace those guys with some type of experience back up on the offensive line. So if you're looking for a spot where LSU may target in the portal and in the February signing date, look for veteran offensive lineman. Kardell Thomas, his LSU career, 4 years, is over, and he'll look to finish his career elsewhere. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.